the girl who collected forgotten dreams. At the edge of the marsh, where the reeds grow taller than houses and the fog never fully lifts, there stood an old mill that no longer ground any grain. Its wheel had not turned in decades. Its windows were dark green with moss. And at night, if you walked close enough, though no one in the village ever did, you could hear something inside, not voices, not footsteps, a kind of humming, soft and many-layered, like 100 people murmuring in their sleep at once. The villagers had a name for the woman who lived there. They called her the dream thief. They said if you forgot something important, a wish, a promise you made to yourself, a dream you once swore you'd chase, it didn't simply vanish. It drifted. Out through the cracks in your sleep, out across the fields, all the way to the marsh. And she caught it. They said she kept shelves of other people's forgotten futures, humming there in the dark, and that she fed on them somehow, growing richer while the rest of the village grew smaller, dimmer, more tired with every dream they lost. No one had proof of this. No one had ever gone close enough to look, except for one girl who had never been very good at being told what to fear. Her name was Wren. She was 10 years old, and she had a memory like a sieve. She forgot her left mitten constantly, forgot what day it was at least once a week, forgot the names of distant cousins within minutes of meeting them. But there was one thing Wren had not forgotten. Not exactly. She remembered that she used to have a dream. A real one, an important one. And that somewhere along the way, she had lost the memory of what it was. She knew this the way you know a tooth is missing even with your eyes closed. There was a gap. A specific, wren-shaped gap, where something used to be. It bothered her more than she let on. So, on a foggy autumn evening, while her parents thought she was asleep, Wren put on her boots, took a candle stub from the kitchen, and walked to the marsh. The reeds closed in around her almost immediately, taller than she was, whispering against each other in a wind she couldn't feel on her skin. The fog smelled like wet stone and something sweeter underneath. Like old paper. Like the inside of a book left out in the rain. She found the mill by its humming before she found it by its shape. The wheel hung motionless over black water, draped in moss so thick it looked like a sleeping green animal. The door was half off its hinges. Wren pushed it open anyway. Inside, the mill was not what she expected. It was not a hoard. It was not a treasury of stolen gold. It was shelves. Hundreds of them, floor to ceiling, each one lined with small glass jars, and inside each jar was a soft, drifting light, pale gold or silver blue, or the dim green of new leaves, pulsing very slowly like something breathing. The humming came from the jars. Each one hummed at a slightly different pitch. Together they made a sound like a lullaby nobody had finished writing. In the middle of the room, in a chair made of warped wood and woven reeds, sat the old woman. She did not look up right away. She was holding a jar in both hands, very gently, the way you'd hold something that might startle. "You're not supposed to be here," she said without turning. "I came for something," said Wren. "Not to take something of yours. Something of mine." Now the woman turned. She was older than anyone Wren had ever seen. Her hair the color of dry reeds, her hands spotted and thin, but her eyes were sharp, the way a bird's eyes are sharp, not unkind, just watching. "Everyone who comes here says that," said the woman. "Some of them are right. My name is Wren. I know what you lost," said the woman. "I've known since the night it drifted in." Wren felt something cold move through her chest. "Then give it back." "It's not that simple," said the woman. "Sit down. I'll explain, and then you can decide if you still want it." Wren did not sit, but she did not leave either. "My name is Marin," said the old woman. "A long time ago, people did not call me the dream thief. They called me the dream keeper, because that's what I actually do. Dreams that get forgotten don't disappear. They have to go somewhere. If nobody catches them, they're gone completely. Not just forgotten, but unmade as if they'd never been dreamed at all. So you save them." "I save them," said Marin. "I keep them safe until someone is ready to remember. Then why does everyone call you a thief? Marin was quiet for a long moment. She set the jar she was holding down onto a shelf, very carefully, beside hundreds of others just like it. Because once, a long time ago, I was too slow, she said. There was a boy, my boy. He had a dream he never told anyone. Not even me, his own mother. Because he thought it was too strange, too big, too embarrassing to say out loud. He carried it quietly for years. And the night before he might have finally done something about it, he forgot it. Just forgot, the way young people sometimes do when life gets loud enough to drown out quiet things. And it drifted here. It did, said Marin. But I wasn't watching. I was asleep myself, that one night of all nights. By the time I woke and found it, it had already faded past saving. I caught only the very edge of it. Enough to know it had been beautiful. Not enough to give it back. Wren looked around at the shelves. At the hundreds of soft, glowing jars. So now you catch every single one, she said slowly. So it never happens again. Every single one, said Wren. For 30 years. That's not stealing. It looks like stealing from the village, said Marin. They see their children forgetting things and growing tired, and they assume something is being taken from them. They don't see what almost happens to a dream that nobody catches at all. Wren stood very still. Show me mine, she said. Please. Marin rose from her chair slowly, joints creaking like the old mill wheel might, and walked to a shelf near the back. She ran one thin finger along a row of jars until she found the one she wanted. Pale gold, pulsing slow and warm, like a small, trapped sunrise. She handed it to Wren. The moment Wren's hands closed around the glass, she remembered. She had wanted. When she was very small, before school, before mittens and cousins, and all the small forgettings that pile up in a life. To learn every bird's call in the marsh. Not to cage them. Not to study them like specimens. Just to know them. To walk through the reeds one day and understand exactly what each sound meant. The way you understand a friend's voice through a wall. It was such a small dream. It was such a large one. Wren held the jar against her chest and began, quietly, to cry. I forgot something so simple, she said. Small dreams disappear the easiest, said Marin. No one warns you to protect them. Everyone warns you about the big ones. Wren wiped her face with her sleeve. What happens now? She asked. Do I just remember it, and that's it? That's the part people get wrong, said Marin. Remembering isn't the end. It's the beginning again. The dream doesn't do anything on its own. You have to carry it back out of this jar and into your actual life, or it will simply drift back here eventually. And I'll have to catch it all over again. Will you let me visit? Wren asked. To check on the others, the ones nobody's claimed yet. Marin looked at her for a long moment. The particular look of someone who has been alone with her work for 30 years, suddenly faced with the possibility of not being alone with it anymore. Why would you want to do that? Because someone should know the shelves exist, said Wren. Besides you. In case something happens to you one night, like it happened to you that one night. So there are two people awake instead of one. Marin did not answer for a long time. Then she nodded, just once, and the humming in the mill seemed, to Wren, though she couldn't have explained how, to settle into something warmer. Wren came back the following week. And the week after that. She learned to read the pitch of the jars, the way Marin could. A thin worried hum meant a dream beginning to fade at the edges and needing attention soon. A low, contented hum meant one that could wait, safe and patient, for its owner to be ready. She learned the names that went with some of the dreams. When Marin remembered them. The baker's son who once wanted to sail, not bake. The miller's wife who once wanted to write songs, not flower ledgers. Dozens of small lights, each one a person's quietest hope, waiting on a shelf in the dark for somebody to be brave enough to come and ask for it. Back. The village still whispered about the mill. Old fears don't unlearn themselves overnight. But one evening, an old fisherman, the kind of man who had told the dream thief stories to his own grandchildren for years, found his hands shaking as he stood at his window, suddenly remembering, with no warning at all, that he had once wanted to build boats instead of simply fishing from them. He didn't know why the memory had surfaced. He only knew it had, sharp and sudden as a struck match. He didn't go to the marsh that night. He wasn't ready. But 3 nights later, he did, and Marin was waiting with his small blue, glowing jar already taken down from its shelf. Because Wren had told her his name the week before, after overhearing him mutter it half asleep on the dock. By the time Wren turned 12, the path through the reeds to the old mill was no longer hidden. It was simply quiet, used by people who needed it to be, and left alone by people who didn't yet. The wheel still didn't turn. The windows were still green with moss. But sometimes, at dusk, villagers walking near the marsh's edge would see 2 figures inside the mill, moving between the shelves. One old, one young, checking the small lights one by one, making sure none of them faded past saving. They stopped calling it the Dream Thief's Mill. They started calling it, simply, the Keeping Place. And every child in the village who lost a mitten, or forgot a cousin's name, or woke up with a Wren-shaped gap where something important used to be, learned eventually that there was a place at the edge of the marsh where forgotten things were not gone. They were only waiting for someone brave enough to come and carry them home.